Hello, welcome to the final episode of Dark Academia for Insomniacs. I know, but after going so long without doing an episode, I think it's time to finally give closure to all that have watched this podcast with me. I appreciate it. But today, we are going to be talking about Werewolf Witch Trials. I remember coming across this, I was like, wait, there were werewolf witch trials? Because I knew about the witch trials, but I didn't know there were werewolf witch trials. And that really actually did fascinate me, honestly. And what better part of dark academia than werewolf witch trials? Um, but yeah, but if you're new here, please hit that like button, ring that bell for notifications. Also, guys, this is a part of my Breezyville series, so please subscribe, help a girl out. Don't I have an honest face? But I do really want to focus more on my other projects, so I think it's time to give this the proper closure. Anyway, what are some famous werewolf witch trials? There is Peter Stump, and this is a famous one. There is the Pierre Bourgault and Michael Burden. There is the Theas of Caltonburn. There's Hans, and there's so many more. Now, it really does sound hard to believe that long ago, before the Salem witch trials, there was something called werewolf trials. And these took place 200 years prior, and they also combine werewolf, werewitch, and werewolf as well. And this belief was developed as a parallel um in the belief of European witches. And this would because this was course happened in the late Middle Ages and early modern period. Like in the witchcraft trials as a whole, the trials of supposed werewolves would emerge in what is not Switzerland, um, what is now Switzerland, especially in the Valais. Is it Valais or Valois? Please, someone help me. I only took French in high school. I barely remember any of it, and I'm terrible with names, so please, no judgment. But which I will later talk about. Well, I won't later talk about this, but this would take place in Valais, in the 15th century, eventually spreading through Europe, at the peak in the 17th century and subsided through the 18th century. The persecution of werewolves would be associated with folklore and the integral part of the witch hunt phenomenon, albeit a marginal one. Accusations of lycanthropy involved in only a small fraction of the witch trials. During the early periods and accusations of lycanthropy, which is basically when they transform into a wolf, were a mix of accusations and wolf riding and wolf charming. A 1589 case of Peter Stump led to a significant peak in interest in the persecution of supposed werewolves, primarily in the French-speaking and German-speaking Europe. Werewolf trials reached Livonia in the 17th century and would become the first common form of the witch trials in the country. The phenomenon persisted longest in Bavaria and Austria, which persecuted wolf charmers persisting until well in the late 1650. And the final case returns recorded in the um, early 18th century in Caratina and Styria. It would eventually reach France and experience several dozen werewolf witch trials around the end of the 16th century. In many cases, some, such as the Gandelin family, were the infamous werewolf of Chalons, the Jacques Roulette of Angers, and who was even accused of murder and cannibalism. He was probably a serial killer, let's be honest, people. But one of the most well known would take place in France, and that was of Gilles Gurney Adol of 1573. Now, in Levant, there was a very indigenous peasantry, in contrast to the Baltic German burghers of nobility, who often conducted pagan worships in defying both the Christian church and the authorities of nobility in the entire 17th century. Consequently, they did not believe in Satan, therefore not in the witches of satanic poets. And they did, however, believe that both malevolent magic, as they would, the experience of werewolves, though they did not associate with them as Satan, as the church's authorities did. Now, um, the result of this was the Baltic peasantry accused of many practicing black magic or causing damage to human lives, properties, and animals while in the shape of a werewolf. And the authorities would interpret this as accusations of witchcraft and satanic pacts. Yeah, what the hell, right? They were pressed the accused of their confessions in accordance with the European witchcraft during the torture in at least 18 trials between 1527 and 1725, with 18 women and 13 men were accused of having caused harm in the shape of werewolves. And the accused often confessed to have been given their wolfskin by another person or demon, sometimes having eaten something in particular and hid them, usually under a rock. In 1636, a woman from Karna claimed to have taken into the woods by an old woman and given berries to eat. People did not turn into wolves, but also bears. Sorry, this is just hilarious. Like, people actually fell for this kind of stuff. Say gullible. Anyway, let's talk about one of the most probably known trials, and that's Hans the werewolf. So in 1651, Hans was brought before the court in Ivor accused of being a werewolf of the age of 18. He had confessed that he had haunted a werewolf for 2 years, and he claimed that he had gotten the body of one of a man in black. So when the judge would ask him if the body took part of the hunt or if his soul was transmitted, he confirmed that he had found a dog's teeth mark on his own leg, which had received while a werewolf. Oh my gosh. So, therefore, the court considered it proof that he had not merely entered the body of a wolf but transformed into one, which meant an undergo magical transformation. In Baltic countries, there are a common method known as werewolf trials into one. But oh my gosh, like so many of them. Even in the Netherlands, for crying out loud, where the accusation of being a werewolf was described as personally synonymous with the accusation of being a witch. Like, oh my goodness. But in 1595, there were illicit werewolf trials conducted in Gelderland, where Johann Marston the Evdies confessed to having been made into a werewolf by devil 3 years previous. Even in the Spanish Netherlands, were the ancient belief that humans could turn into wolves by the Catholic Church. Yeah, that is crazy. But oh my gosh, like, okay, do you guys believe that werewolves actually could have done this? I don't. It's just boils down to the simple fact of boredom, for crying out loud. But that is it for this final episode. Thank y'all for tuning in. I will see y'all next time. I will see y'all on my many other projects. That feels strange to say. I can't not to say, honestly.